A time comes in the life of every race when people are driven by echoes of the past to chart a course for an exalted future. Africa is at this threshold, as major actors in the Africa arena plots a renaissance towards common destiny. Let's pedal across the streams of yesterday, from the backstreets of Africa to the defining roles of policymakers, the political realities of the African nation, balance of power, and the strive to sustain national interest and identity. Join us on Network Africa on Channels Television. Network Africa, the rallying point for the emergence of a new Africa.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Network Africa. I am Victoria Ido. This week, we're back to monitoring the Ebola virus disease still raging through West Africa. Nigeria has no more recorded cases of the disease, but as long as there are still countries overwhelmed with the cases and cannot seem to contain it, we're still at risk. That means cleanliness must still be observed with utmost caution, especially the washing of hands and the use of hand sanitizers. Creating awareness about the virus is the first step to containing it, but creating awareness about the virus with fighting figures and analysis and also reports only put fear in people, making them lose hope that it can never be contained. Now, ever since Nigeria was declared Ebola-free by the WHO, the United States sent in some experts from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention to study how we contained the disease in Nigeria. Now, Nigeria, however, is stepping into the Big Brother shoes by training up to 800 personnel to be deployed to countries within the region still struggling with the virus. It's not going to be easy, but together, in West Africa, we can fight the disease. The World Health Organization has released scary figures saying the number of deaths from the Ebola virus has passed 5,000. It says that no more cases of the disease have been recorded in Guinea and Liberia. Well, there is a growing concern about what's going on in Sierra Leone, where the WHO says frequency of new cases remain high. What's even worse is that health workers in the main clinic that handles Ebola cases says unless the government pays them what it promised, they are no longer interested in working in the clinic.
The health workers say the strike is necessary because the government promised them hazard payment in addition to salaries the staff receive from medical charity Médecins Sans Frontières. In order to appease them, the district medical officer says the staff will be paid on Friday for the first 2 weeks of November. The story is a little different in Liberia, where President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf commended health workers and military forces on Wednesday. The president had paid a visit to the Sinji Ebola unit, a 100-bed facility currently being built by the armed forces of Liberia in Grand Cape Mount County, a hotspot in the Ebola epidemic.
Well done. So let me thank you to you and all of your colleagues who have come on to assist us and to support our country in this fight. Absolutely. Let you know we appreciate you. Thank you. You know the sacrifice you made to be able to do this. We thank God for you. Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Put together, the death toll from the Ebola outbreak in 3 West African countries, Guinea, Liberia and Sierra Leone, has risen to 5,147 out of 14,068 cases as at the end of November the 9th. The World Health Organization says it's beginning to see some evidence that case incidence is no longer increasing in Liberia.
There is a trend now in Liberia showing a kind of decline in cases while being reported on a weekly basis. In some district in Guinea, there is also kind of decline, but in Sierra Leone, the numbers are still very high. What I can tell you is we should stay still very vigilant because things tend to change very quickly in Ebola.
According to U.S. Army Major General Gary Volesky, about 2,200 U.S. troops are currently in Liberia. That number is expected to be increased to nearly 3,000 by December. However, despite the influx of foreign aid and personnel, it's still challenging working in Liberia.
54 staff was in JF Center, 54 staff. they will have about 26 per shift. We are running 2 shifts here. Morning shift and night shift. Also, for staff quarter, we don't have a quarter here for us to stay.
For countries like Mali, one death in the person of a 2-year-old girl may have led everyone to think the government may have had it under control. This week, however, a second and third deaths were recorded, a health worker and a patient she was treating.
Beyond the little girl, one nurse, a male nurse, is confirmed of having Ebola, and he died on 11th November. 4 others are probable cases of death from Ebola.
Mali shares an 800-kilometer border with Guinea, which has recorded a high number of cases and deaths. The Health Minister, Ousmane Kone, says the Health Ministry has given information so the public understands the danger of the situation. He says they're also trying to avoid panic as recorded in Liberia. To maintain control of the situation, the government is focusing on equipping health workers with knowledge concerning treatment and personal care. Recently, trainings were run at the WHO to teach health workers from Bamako and other cities on how to put on and remove protective gear.
More international effort is being drummed up in the fight against Ebola. Apart from the United Kingdom, which is building quarantine centers across Sierra Leone and shipping in supplies, Israel, despite trying to suppress growing tensions with its Palestine neighbor, has also announced it's sending portable